Hey guys, today we're going to sew these cute little chickens. It's by Libby. It's called the Libby Chicken by Cozy Coop Cottage. I'll put a link in the description below. Look how cute these are. These are the little pot holders that stand up on their own. Look how cute they are. Okay, so I do mine a little bit differently than the pattern. As you know, pattern to me is just a jump off point, so I'm going to show you how I put mine together. I have two of the body pieces, and I have one reversed and one the other way, obviously. So I got two pieces of front and the back. I have the two pieces for my ruffle tail, cut to the length that they said in the pattern. I'm not going to give that out. I have my bottom piece. I have the comb piece, and what I did with the comb piece is I just traced it onto my piece of fabric. Okay, and then I have the big piece, and what I did for the beak is I took my circle. See, it started out as a circle, and I folded it in half and pressed it, and then I folded it in half again and pressed it, and folded it in half again and pressed it, and that's our little beak. Okay, and then for the wings, this is where we do a little differently. She only calls for 2 cuts of the wings. I do 4 cuts of the wings because I don't do the pre-quilted fabric. I'm going to use foam. So I have 4 wings cut out, and I have 2 of my wings cut reverse. I have my 2 wing pieces that I said was foam. I just kind of put my piece of my pattern on there like this and just kind of cut off a piece big enough for my wings. I have my underside, this underbelly piece right here, Insel Bright, and I have my 2 body pieces of foam, and again I just kind of laid my pattern on here and cut it out, rough cut it out. Okay, so we're going to start with the ruffle and go ahead and get that over with. Okay, so get all these pieces out of the way. So what I have here is 2 pieces of fabric, and I'm not going to tell you the size of them because that's in the pattern. I'm going to put them pretty side to pretty side, and I'm going to make a 1/4 inch seam down the side here. I have a 2.5 stitch length, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch. I'm not going to back stitch because we're going to ruffle it, and I'm going to pull some tail out on my thread. Okay, so I got a 1/4 inch seam sewed across the top. I'm going to take it to the iron, I'm going to press it, and then I'm going to fold this over and press it in half. I'm also going to take these at the little short ends, fold them in a 1/4 inch on both sides, and fold this over and press it. And I'll be right back. Alright, so I took this to the iron, folded my sides in 1/4 inch, pressed them. And this is my raw edge. I just kind of lined them up, pressed them together. I did the same thing on this side, 1/4 inch in. So now what I'm going to do is, uh-oh, my piece is going in my trash can. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to top stitch this. I'm going to start here at this side, go across the little small short edge and down the long edge, and then back to this one. And when I top stitch, I like my stitch length to be a little larger, so I'm going to put it at a 4. And then, so for this one, I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and the end. And then turn the corner. I lost you, hold on. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is this raw edge that we still have here. I'm going to make my stitch length as large as I can do it on my machine. On mine it is a 9, so I've made it as large as I can make it. I'm going to leave me a tail, pretty good sized tail, both the bobbin and the top thread, and I'm going to sew right down here, and I'm going to sew kind of close in to the edge, not quite a 1/4 of an inch, but not an 1/8 of an inch, like in between there. I'm not back stitching, and as you can see, it's starting to ruffle it just right on its own. I didn't back stitch at the end. I'm going to pull out some tail again, and I'm going to take my bobbin thread, okay, and I'm going to pull this and ruffle it some more. Be very gentle here, because if you break your thread, you have to start all over again. So I'm going to do this side, okay, and then I'm going to take my 2 threads, my top thread and my bobbin thread on this side, and I'm going to tie it in a knot. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the other side, and on our pattern it tells you how big it needs to be, so we're going to make it this wide. So I'm going to take this bobbin and I'm going to pull it until it ruffles the size we need. So I'm going to hold on to both of them. So I need to go a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to scoot everything over. Hold on to my bobbin, pull it, and I have it the size we need. Okay, so now I'm going to take it and tie these 2 pieces of thread together. Being very gentle, because if you pull too tight, you'll break this thread. Okay, and so we don't get confused, we're going to go ahead and trim our tails off of this thread. And this is our ruffle tail, and it's the size that we need it. Okay, can you see that? So this is my pattern, this is my ruffle tail, and it's the size we need it here. Okay, so that's done. Then I'm going to take, that's my body pieces, I'm going to take my comb piece, the piece that I have drawn my design onto 2 pieces of fabric. Okay, so there's 2 pieces, I just have them folded in half, and I'm going to stitch on the line. I'm not sewing the bottom closed, I'm going to leave that open because we're going to turn it through there, but I'm going to stay on this line as close as I can. So now I'm going to go back to a 2.5. I'm going to go right to the corner of the end here. I'm going to take a stitch, back stitch a stitch, and then I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to stay on this the best I can. Even when it comes to these curves at the top, even if you have to hand crank it some. Take a couple of stitches. Every time you stop though, make sure your needle is down before you pivot. And then go back to the second hoop, hump, or whatever you want to call it. Needle down. This one's a kind of sharp one, so I'm going to hand crank there. And back stitch at the end. Okay, so there's mine. I don't know if you can see my stitches, but I stayed on it just as close as I could. If I veered off a little bit, and let's see if I did. See right here on my hoop, on the hump of this one, I veered off just a little bit. It's going to be fine. Nobody's going to see that to notice. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and cut it out. I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch. In fact, I'm going to use my pinking shears. Cut out around there. Then I'm going to cut around the bottom. Okay, so that's what my piece looks like now. And that's the back. So now I'm going to turn it right side out. Flip this out. Get your little turning tool. Push your seams out. Get it nice and flat across the seam. Everything pushed out good. Okay, so that's what mine looks like right now. I'm going to get that out a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm just going to take it and kind of accordion it, like just shoop, accordion it like this. I don't know if you can see that good. And I'm going to stitch across the bottom, and that's going to give it a little bit of like dimension when you sew it. So it's going to make it kind of stand up and be poofy. So I'm just going to baste this together. So I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch. You can see the line through my fabric anyway. You can still see the line. I'm going to stitch on that line so that I know to line that up with the pattern piece. So there's my comb. Pretty cute. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. So we have the beak ready, we have the comb ready. We have, where did my beak go? I lost my beak. Oh, it went in the trash can. Here it goes. So this is my beak. We have it ready. I'm going to put the pattern piece up there and set it over here. So now we're going to go to the wing. So we're going to move all this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to take 2 pieces of the wing. Pretty sides to pretty side. And I'm going to lay it on my piece of foam. Kind of cut that piece of foam a little close, and then I'm going to lay this other piece right side down on top of it. So they're right sides together. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing at the top. I'm going to come around its wing piece down here all the way around and stop about here. So I'm going to leave about that much of an opening so that we can turn the wing inside out or right side out. I'm going to scoot that down just a little bit. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch back stitching very well at the beginning and the end, and I'm on a 2.5. These sharp curves here at the bottom where the wings are, you just hand crank if you need to. I need to. Okay, oops. Thought my needle was down, but it wasn't. And then my last little wing piece. And then around. And then I'm going to turn and come in, and I'm going to leave probably 1.5 to 2 inch opening on the top. Okay, and I'm gonna back stitch very well at the beginning and the end. Okay, so that's what my wing looks like now. Now I'm gonna cut the foam out around it. I don't know that you need, actually gonna use my pinking shears because it's a curve. Be real careful and make sure you don't hit any of the stitches. That would not be any good. Okay, so there we go. Kind of have my wing cut out here. So now we're going to turn this inside out, right side out through here and poke out all of our corners with our turner. So we'll just poke it out. Take this piece, flip it, and push it all the way out. If it gets where it's a little stuck like mine is, just take your little needle, stick it in there and pull. But pull gently. You don't want to be rough about it. Just pull real easy on the seam and it'll come out this little bit of a hump that they give you. I'm going to get a little closer to me so I can see. There we go. So see, now my little wing piece is sharp. I'm going to stick this in here and do the other two humps. There we go. So the piece that has the foam stitched on it, I'm going to fold that under 1/4 inch, clip it. So you just want to make sure it's straight across the top, across this the top piece, and then I'm going to take this other piece, and if you kind of pull it a little bit, fold it under and pull it, it kind of just levels itself out, and that's what we're going to do. And then add that to the clip. So that's what I have. From here to here is an opening on both sides. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, pull that corner out just a little bit more. It was a little stuck. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is top stitch across the top, and because I top stitch on a 4, I'm going to go to 4, and I'm going to put my needle down on the corner and top stitch. I top stitch at 1/8 inch. Okay. There's our top stitch across here. So our hole is closed. So now we're going to repeat that with the second wing. We'll go back to a 2.5. There we go. Get your wing out. And then I'm going to turn it through our hole, through the 2 pieces of fabric here. If you turn it through the foam right here, you're just going to switch sides with this. So you want to go between the 2 layers of fabric. I'm going to pull my little wing piece out again. There we go. There's wing number 2. Now I'm going to close my hole. And I'm going to top stitch at 1/4 of an inch. I mean 1/8 of an inch. Excuse me. I'm going to go back to a 4. Alright, so there's my wing. Both of them. Cutie patootie. Okay? I'm going to set them aside. Now I'm going to take my bottom piece. I have this is my Insel Bright. And I'm going to take my fabric bottom. It says underside on the pattern. And I'm going to lay right side up. And then the wrong side, right side of my Insel Bright. Which I don't really think it has a right or wrong side, but okay, I'm gonna lay that on there like this, and I'm gonna baste all the way around at 1/8 of an inch. If you feel like you need to pin this, you go right ahead to hold it all in place. I missed a little bit on this curve. So basically we're just holding the layers together so that when we sew it together, the chicken, we don't have to worry about catching 4 or 5 layers. We'll just have to worry about catching the 1 layer. I have a little bit of the Insel Bright still sticking out around it, so I'm going to trim it around even with my piece of fabric. It's just a little bit, but it might throw me off. So I'm going to trim around it. Alright, so there's my underside piece. And again, that's just basted onto the Insel Bright. Okay, so there's that one. We'll get all of our pieces. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing that we just did with the underside piece, and we're going to baste the chicken onto our piece of foam. So we're just going to go around here and baste it to our piece of foam, and then we're going to cut it out. So we're going to do the exact same thing we did with the underside piece. Okay, so now I'm going to cut it out. I have a trash can right over here beside me, so I'm just going to come over here and cut it out. Let it fall into the trash can. Okay, so that's my chicken piece. If you're following the directions, my foam piece is taking the place of the pre-quilted fabric. So there's one piece of chicken, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this. These are so cute. I gotta go one more stitch. So I'm doing this in real time, except for with no breaks and everything, except for when I went to the iron and pressed my ruffle. So you can see exactly how long it takes to make one of these. They're really quick. We're practically done. We just got to sew this sucker together now. Okay, we have our two front pieces, two chicken pieces. So we're going to come back over here to our little goodies, and we're going to take our beak, and on our pattern it'll tell you put the beak here, put the comb here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, I think I want it on this piece. I guess you could do this however you want to, but on the big piece I want the fold on the top. Okay, and it's going to go inside the big piece so that when we do it, it flips back out. So we're going to baste it on the inside. I'll show you in just a second what I mean by that. And I'm just going to baste it on. See, it goes facing the inside. I'm going to do the same thing with the comb. And figure out how I want it. I think I want it like that, so I'm just going to put it here on the top. I'm going to line my stitching up on that up with the top of the piece of fabric, and I'm going to baste it on. Okay. So when we turn it, our comb is going to be up and our beak is going to be out like this. It's going to be really cute. So we're going to do the same thing with our wings. You want to make sure your wing is flying towards like the ruffle butt part, because if not, yeah, chicken's going to be flying backwards. Ask me how I know. So now what we're going to do is kind of put this where we want it at. I kind of center it a little bit on my chicken. See, something like that. Make sure you leave enough of room for your 1/4 inch on the bottom and around the neck part here. And now what we're going to do is where our wing starts and stops, we're going to stitch this down all the way around the bottom up in here and leave the top open for our hand. Just go around the wing pieces. Now I'm going around the bottom, back up to the top, and I'm going to back stitch very well at the top and the start and the stop, because that's going to be a stress point where you put your hand in and out of. Okay. So see what I did? I sewed all the way around here, all the way around the bottom, and up to the top, and I left the top open. Okay, so our little hand can go in there. So we're going to put the other wing on the other side, but one way I figured out without having to line them up with the pattern to get them right is just lay this one on top of it like this, and then lay your chicken on top of it, make sure everything's lined up. Yeah, that looks good. And pick it up. So they're in the exact same spot. We're going to do the exact same thing. So around the bottom of this. Back stitching very well at the beginning and the end. And there's our second wing. Okay, so now we're just going to take our tail piece, and we're going to lay it right here on our chicken and baste it on again on the inside. So with it folded in like this. I'm going to put mine right side up only because of the way my cone is laying, the way I put my cone on, so that this will be the back side of the chicken. Okay. And I'm going to just baste this on right here, 1/8 of an inch, back stitching at the beginning and the end. Okay, so there's our tail, and when it's out it'll be like this, but it'll be on the other side because I like the way the cone is for that side. Okay, so we're down to 3 pieces. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our chicken pieces, and on the pattern she has dots, one right here and one right here. This is where we're going to start and stop. We're going to sew up, around, and around the head. We're going to start here and stop here. So I'm just going to clip everything together. I'm going to push my little tail piece out of the way so that I don't catch it in my 1/4 of an inch when I sew it. There we go. Then again, I'm going to come down the side here, and I'm going to push my little tail piece, the little ruffles, out of the way. Here at the bottom, I'm just going to push them in out of the way because I'm going to sew to there and stop, because that's where our dot is. So we're going to start here. I'm going to move my clip to there, and then I'm going to put a clip where she indicates that we start at. Okay, so that's where we're going to sew it. We're not sewing this at the bottom. We're going to start here, sew up and around the chicken, down its neck until we get to right here. I'm going to sew it on a 2.5 stitch length, and I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so that's what I did. I back stitched when I started and when I stopped. Okay, so our chicken is sewed together all except for this bottom piece. So we're down to 2 pieces. So now we're going to put them together. Get rid of all these tails that are on me. So we're going to kind of open this piece up a little bit. You see how I've opened it up? I'm going to take the point of this. See, it has a little point here, and that's going to go into the neck part. We're going to do right sides together. If you give me just a second, I'll show you what I'm doing. And then I'm going to come down here to the bottom. Line everything up, and then I'm going to clip it all the way around this side. Okay, see how I have it clipped around that side? And I'm going to clip it around this side. You kind of got to pull it and make it kind of fit a little bit. Even like tuck it in the way it should be. Clip it around there. If you get a little extra like I have, just work it back in. Go back the other way. Pushing, making sure everything lines up. It will eventually line up. Here we go. Okay. See, have it all lined up, all stitched. All clipped together. Okay. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to put that down so the chicken head is up. I'm going to start at its neck right here, and I'm going to sew all the way around to its tail, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to do 1/4 inch, 2.5 stitch length. Move that clip because it's in my way. Okay. That's what we got. We sewed that side. Now this side we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to start at the tail right here. Let me put my clip back where. But this time we're going to leave a hole, probably 2 inches at the bottom of the wing. That's what we're going to turn it through. So I'm just going to scooch everything out of the way. Make sure you don't catch the ruffle part of the tail. And then sew around 1/4 inch. Oh, I forgot to leave my little hole there. I'm going to stop right there and then pick up right here. Okay, I'm gonna take a couple of these stitches out because I went a little far with my, there we go. So we have a hole here. Everything else is sewn. So now we're gonna reach in the hole all the way up to the head and pull the head out first. See, there's my head, my comb. I'm gonna pull that out and then just kind of push everything else out. There's our tail, cutie patootie. We're gonna get one side out and the other side out. So now we're gonna take our turning tool and we're gonna run this all the way along all the seam just to make sure everything's pushed out well on both sides. Okay, there we go. So there's our chicken. Make sure everything's out well. I got a string here. Oh, that's just a loose one. So that's the chicken. Now we're going to close up our hole. So I'm just going to follow the curve of the chicken. Do 1/4 inch. Just so it looks nice. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. See, and got it clipped so they line up on both sides. So this is a little different than the pattern. I like mine to be top stitched all the way around and not just where my opening is. So I'm going to start here where the underside is and I'm going to stitch around here, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go to a 4 stitch length, make sure everything's pulled out good, and I'm going to start stitching right there, and I'm going to do 1/8 inch. All the way around. This is going to close the hole up and give a little bit of a decoration stitch, like professional looking. It needs to go in a little bit more right there. There we go. And I'm going to come up to around the tail. And back stitch. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to start here and go all the way around to the neck. Just fold that over, making sure you don't catch anything except for the pieces you want to top stitch. And then I'm going to make sure everything's rolled out and folded like it's supposed to be. There we go. And because we top stitched the bottom of our chicken, now we're going to top stitch the top of the chicken. This is a personal preference. I just like the way it looks a little better top stitched. So now I'm going to close the thing flat and I'm going to start where I stopped at. You can see where you stopped sewing at, and I'm going to go up and around to where we stopped at. Making sure everything's pulled out nicely. So I'm going to put my needle down where I stopped sewing at, back stitch, and I'm going to come up around the ruffle tail, sew across it, turn and go across the back of the head. I felt that wasn't pulled out all the way, so I'm going to take my pin and pull that out some. There we go. Around the top of the head. Again, I don't think it's pulled out right here real good, so I'm going to take my pin, pull it. There we go. With this foam, it's a little thick, but I'm sure you can do it because it squishes down when you sew it. And then I'm going to come down here to the neck, and then we'll be done. I'm going to finish where we started. Back stitching at the beginning and at the end. And there's your chicken pot holder done. Look how cutie patootie. So you would use it like this, like Pac-Man style. And so say this is your oven handle. You can take and stick them on your oven handle like that. Line them up there. That's really, really cute. And they'll stay because we used the foam instead of the quilted fabric already. So these are cute. Cutie patootie. I hope you enjoyed. Love you, bye.